Welcome to the Rotary Club of Milwaukee. I'm Past President Ed Krishok, retired Managing Director of International Legal Affairs at Harley-Davidson Motor Company and current Managing Director at the Urban Ecology Center. As we gather virtually today, our 15th virtual meeting in our 107-year history, please join me as we continue our tradition of reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin with our invocation, we'll take a moment to acknowledge fellow Rotarian Bob Slater, who passed away this past week. Bob joined Rotary in 2010 and retired from Robert W. Baird & Company as Senior Vice President of Private Wealth Management. We send our deepest sympathy to his family. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot, remember old lang syne. Remember old lang syne, my friends. Remember old lang syne. Should old acquaintance be forgot, remember old lang syne. Tom Gale, Senior Advisor and Partner at SVN Hinsey Commercial Real Estate, will offer our invocation.
Thank you, Past President Ed. God of creation, it is good to recognize how different we are. Our talents, our dreams, our backgrounds, our occupations. And it's good to know that when you created each of us, you broke the mold. No one is exactly like anyone else. Even our thumbprint and our voice track tell us how unique we are. Yet we thank you that we can take these differences and mobilize them for the good of Rotary and our community. In our differences, we can think of the same thoughts and move together toward a common goal. Bless us as we meet together. Thank you for our individuality and also for our common bond. Amen.
Thank you, Tom. We're here today to have some fun looking back on the past year with President Steve Chevalier and extending a welcome to incoming President Darren Miller with our changing of the guard ritual. After all, mindless superstition and pointless ritual are what separate us from the animals. But before we get to that, we have a bit of club business. Tom Gale, co-chair of the Rotary International Foundation, will come back to acknowledge some important donors to the Rotary Foundation.
Thank you again, President. We'd like to acknowledge some important contributions to Rotary International. First, we'd like to thank the Zilber Family Foundation for their matching contribution of $12,500 to our annual polio fundraising campaign. And outgoing President Steve Chevalier's fingerprints are all over that. Thank you, Steve and Zilber. Together with the donations from our club members and the donation we make in our honor of our speakers, the Rotary Club of Milwaukee donated $30,000 to the polio campaign. With a 2-for-1 match by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as a club, we have raised over $90,000 to combat polio and COVID-19. Next, I want to thank our most recent major donor, Rotarian Mike Paddock. He's been an integral player in our club's work in Guatemala. Mike has generously donated to Rotary International's annual fund to continue Rotary's work in Guatemala and around the world. In the email before lunch, we provided a link to the 2018 Milwaukee Journal Sentinel article that featured Mike and a link to his website so you can check out his book. Our club has 9 major donors: Bill Coleman, Jim Dorman, Al Dirtka, Jalili Kohler, Rick Ludke, Doug McNeil, Quinn Martin, Jim Miller, and Mike Paddock. Rotarians have a tradition of supporting the work of Rotary by honoring others. On an international level, Members of our club have had the opportunity to receive recognition for their donations. The Paul Harris Fellowship is named for Paul Harris, who founded Rotary with 3 business associates in Chicago in 1905. The fellowship was established in his honor in 1957. Rotarians who contribute $1,000 to the Rotary International Foundation earn this award. Existing Paul Harris Fellows who continue to contribute are awarded higher designations for each $1,000 given. Today, we honor those who received new Paul Harris Fellowship recognition through the recent support of Rotary International. These most important fellows have primarily earned their status through donations to our recent polio campaign. You will now see their pictures and designations on your screens. Steve Chevalier has become a Paul Harris Fellow +6. Eric Eisbester has become a Paul Harris Fellow +4. Lloyd Dickinson, Joe Good, Charlie James have become Paul Harris Fellows +3. Larry Bonney, Bill Lefebvre, and Bill Lynch have become Paul Harris Fellows +2. John Beckwith, John Emery, Rick Frank, John Frankie, Joanne Bruno, Joan Kessler, Darren Miller, Frederick Muth, Bob Poussant have become Paul Harris Fellows +1. Jessica Grotsky, Tracy Johnson, Roy Peterson, Janet Protashewitz, Jamie Reed, Bill Robinson, Bill Sheehan have also become Paul Harris Fellows. When we honor our Paul Harris Fellows in Memorial Hall, we usually ask our fellows to stand. Well, we can't do that today, but let's have a virtual round of applause. To date, we have 160 fellows in our club. Thank you all for leading the way. Each one of you is making a difference.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you to all of our Paul Harris Fellows. It is my honor and privilege today to offer this toast to Steve Chevalier, the 108th president of Rotary Club of Milwaukee. President Steve is a leader of intelligence, curiosity, quiet passion, and purpose. And he has skillfully and gracefully guided our club through the disruption of the current pandemic, almost as if he has done this before during the last big pandemic in 1918. That got me to thinking. When Steve was asked to consider serving as president of Rotary Club of Milwaukee, along with the general expressions of humility and appreciation for being asked that you would expect from anyone, but especially from Steve, he expressed particular concern about his age. Steve doesn't seem too much older than many of us. Why would he bring up age? Just how old is he? Of course, you could check the public records, and I did, but we all know that birth certificates are easily faked. And you could ask him, and I did. He said 70. But I became more and more convinced that I wasn't seeing the full picture. Further investigation was required. So where to begin? I had a couple of things to go on. First, Chevalier is an extremely cool last name. Way too cool to think about changing, ever. No way you use an alias when your name is Chevalier. Really, most of you are sitting alone right now, zooming in. Try saying it out loud a few times. You'll see what I mean. Chevalier. So however old Steve really is, he has been using the same name the whole time. Second, Steve is proud of his strong connection to Milwaukee. His entire professional career in accounting and finance has been spent in downtown Milwaukee within a 3-square-block area. Third, details are a little bit scarce, but he is well-liked and well-respected, and we know he is never very far from the action, influencing things for the better. In fact, regarding details, when we reached out to a few of Steve's friends and colleagues for some insight, the consistent response was the kind of vague and reverent adulation typically reserved for mob bosses. Gravitas. I decided to start with the name. And I found this picture of a Chevalier from the late 17th century. But even accounting for the centuries, except for the natty attire, there's not much resemblance to Steve here. I also discovered a treasure trove of information about the Chevalier vampire knights. While the vampire angle could help explain how Steve might span the ages from pandemic to pandemic, I didn't find much resemblance here either. No need to be discouraged. I hadn't brought Milwaukee into the picture yet, and I reminded myself to think 3-block area in downtown Milwaukee. And I came upon this old photo of Steve in Solomon Juneau's cabin. But I wasn't able to place this photo in an exact time frame. If Solomon Juneau were also in the picture, that would have put it sometime before 1856 when Solomon Juneau passed away. But it's just Steve by himself peering through the window there. Then I got my big break, and it came by chance, as big breaks often do. A promotional piece for the recently concluded Rotary 2020 virtual convention included this photo from the 1918 Rotary International Convention in Kansas City. On close inspection, there he is. There is President Steve next to the white arrow on your screen. Steve is not hundreds of years old. He's maybe a little over 100 years old. Not as old as a vampire, but old enough to have been there before, not just for the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, but for a whole host of events that informed and shaped his year as our club president. From that chance spotting of President Steve at the 1918 Rotary International Convention in Kansas City, Missouri, the pieces quickly fell into place. He was there when the stock market crashed in 1929, overseeing the cleanup and recovery from financial chaos and ruin, building the experience and honing the skills needed to guide our club through the economic uncertainty of 2020. He was there when the viral plague of polio first threatened our country's and the world's health and peace of mind. Here is Steve standing by the side of Dr. Jonas Salk and another colleague when the first polio vaccine was developed. Steve brings that long simmering passion to end polio to the work of our club as part of Rotary International's long-standing commitment to eradicating that dreaded disease from the face of the earth, and Rotary International's new commitment to bring the experience and wherewithal to battle a global viral outbreak to the efforts to fight COVID-19. The next historical connection was a bit more difficult to uncover. President Steve has long been involved on behalf of our club in the World Affairs Seminar. The seminar brings together high school students from across the globe to share insights and experiences and to learn together to help them shape the world they will inherit. Where does this recognition of the importance of connecting future leaders from around the world come from? Well, here it is. There is President Steve at an early session of the UN General Assembly, watching and learning. And finally, during this about to conclude Rotary year, we've had to embrace the internet and virtual experiences at a pace that is dizzying for a 108-year-old club. Fortunately for us, President Steve was there when Al Gore invented the internet. President Steve knew the power of the internet from its inception, understood the virtual tools at our command, and had the background to guide us into this modern moment. Steve Chevalier is truly a man for the ages and for the modern world. And if you doubt my proof of Steve's journey through the past 100 years or so, if you doubt my clear photographic proof, then draw on your own experiences with Steve through this challenging, topsy-turvy year. There is no doubt that he has brought the wisdom of the ages to our club during this time of challenge and change, and guided us safely through the storm. He is a leader of intelligence, grace, curiosity, passion, and purpose. Let us lift our real and virtual glasses in a toast. Thank you, President Steve. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ed, for those kind words. I may not be 100, but after this year, I feel like 100. So you might be closer to the truth than you think. Thanks for the opportunity for addressing the club one last time as president. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the club over this past year. And before I do anything, I have to thank my partner and wife of 51 years, Susan, who has joined me here today to keep an eye on me and make sure I don't say anything untoward. But without her, I couldn't have done it. She's traveled with me to Hamburg and to Long Beach and to several other Rotary meetings and has supported me with her counsel and wisdom. So my initial thought about addressing the club was to talk about what a strange year we had and the effects of the pandemic on the club's operations. Then I thought, we've been hearing that 24/7. So I don't have to add to the obvious. So I would rather briefly describe the positive things that this club has accomplished over the last year and things that I know we can do in the future. And to be clear, this is all about the efforts of you as club members and leaders of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee and leaders in our community. Just to rattle off a few of the things that stand out in my mind over the last year. For months before this change, we met in fellowship over lunches, breakfasts, and dinners, too numerous to mention. Before the Safer at Home protocol, we met socially at Live at the Lakefront, the coffee connectors, the beer connectors, evening social events, Thai Rotarian tours of some of the most interesting places in Milwaukee, book clubs with important books that we've read, and more. Starting in March, we shifted seamlessly, I think, to virtual meetings with continued and expanded content to our membership. For example, we added the Thursday snack programs, and with the help of the Florentine Opera, we offered the Quarantine Opera series on Wednesday afternoons, as well as joint press club presentations. We supported over 24 scholarship students with financial aid, training, and social events, and very importantly, mentorship and advice to help them in their journey through college. We added to our scholarship endowments, and the Scholarship Golf Classic raised over $80,000 to start the year and is well on its way to another successful year this year, albeit in a delayed outing. We continued our practice of giving financial support to numerous good causes. For example, the Milwaukee Urban Stables, which Ed has been very important in, and which is going to open very soon. The VA Veterans Home renovations to help house homeless vets. The Milwaukee Symphony's new home at the Grand Theater. The Marcus Center for the Performing Arts. Humanitarian projects in Guatemala and India, and not to mention our worldwide efforts to eradicate polio. COVID-19 emergency grants to community organizations that really needed our help this year. We've supported Rotary youth leadership activities through the support of the World Affairs Seminar at Carroll University, which Ed mentioned. And as well as many other small grants to community nonprofits, neighborhood groups, and environmental causes as we do each year. And we haven't just simply written checks. You have unselfishly volunteered countless personal hours and work on many causes, including the DNC Planning Committee and organizational work there, mentoring scholarship students, which is a heavy pull. Literacy efforts such as tutoring and book distributions through our Reading is Fundamental program, working at the Urban Ecology Center, the River Revitalization Foundation, and others on environmental matters. Food sorting at Feeding America, Johnson's Park meetings support, and on the table programs to help support that neighborhood, and many, many club administrative committees and tasks that keep our club running smoothly. There's so much more, and my apologies for leaving out so many other things that you all do in service to our community and the world in general, but I'm simply trying to make a point that this club is really providing us with the opportunity for service above self in community with hundreds of like-minded individuals. Where else could we do this in one organization which has connections throughout the world with over 1,200,000 members? To paraphrase our founder, Paul Harris, we are people of action, not just words. So I think you can all be proud of what has been accomplished over the last year by this club, and you can be confident that the next year will be even better. Yeah, we have our challenges, including continuing our recent efforts to promote racial equity and justice in the community and within our own membership. We also need to work on sustaining and growing a healthy membership in order to continue the good work that this club does do. We need to encourage and support even more engagement and fellowship among all of our members. The large club is a blessing and also a curse in that it's easy to get lost in the crowd. So engagement is part of all of our jobs, a personal challenge to each of us. And in closing, I especially want to thank Mary McCormick, Michelle Hawkins, and Ann Keenan for keeping this club running like a fine watch. We are blessed and lucky to have such a strong administrative support group. They really make the job easy. I'd also like to thank Past President Ed for all his good advice and support this year and the prior year leading up to this year, and for his continued service to the club in so many different ways. And of course, I'm indebted to Darren Miller for answering the call to lead this club over the upcoming year. And finally, I want to recognize every member of this club who has worked on committees or as a volunteer or a financial contributor, as we just saw, of which there are so many, or as an officer or a member of our 15-person board. Thank you all for raising your hand and answering the call for service. One of my most important and fun tasks this year was to recruit 6 new members for our 2019-2020 Board of Directors. In gratitude for their service this past year and over the next several years, and that of the entire board who served us this year, the Zilber Family Foundation and I jointly are making a joint donation in honor of this board to support the RCM Scholarship Program. What better way to pay it forward? I'm confident that our new president, Darren Miller, our new and returning board members, our committee leaders and participants, our excellent administrative staff, and you individually as members will make 2020-2021 the best year yet in our club's 108-year history. Thank you all, and Happy New Year. And now I am honored to pass the Rotary gavel on to Darren Miller, president of JM Construction, and our new president. Congratulations, Darren. You can have one with your own name on it, by the way. So.
Thank you, Steve and Ed and Tom, for those gracious remarks. While I'm not fearful of saying something stupid, I am afraid always of saying something boring. So hopefully I don't deliver on either of those points with the remarks I've prepared. As I look ahead and prepare for the next year as president of the Rotary Club in Milwaukee, I find myself reflecting on how Rotary and Rotarians can create space for truth. Any success is the product of 1,000 small failures. And while I know we may not get this completely right, it certainly is our responsibility to try. Truth is not a unicorn bounding happily through some faraway and mythical land. The conditions of objective truth are met without biases, partiality, or prejudice. Now, more than ever, society possesses the tools to insta-book, tweet, and become the arbiter of truth without consideration of neutrality. We increasingly rely on individual subjectivity to seek what divides us instead of embracing our commonalities and shared humanity. Unfortunately, there is no shortage of mainstream and social media where one can find any version of truth they prefer. Today, we have allowed technology to remove this humanity from our conduct within society. We bully one another with impunity, refusing to eat our mental vegetables by only consuming the information that reinforces our own self-interests. We respond to posts with language one would never choose when in person. Our world is steaming towards the iceberg of division. Across the globe, nations are erecting walls, the most dangerous of which are within our own borders. Nationalism is weakening shared human thought, and partisan aggression is breaking our hard-won friendships. One could ask how we've advanced to a place of fear and aversion to our differences. The American experiment is still that, a laboratory of ideas, yet much of society insists on running with a pair of well-sharpened and self-serving scissors. Entitlement and avarice are pervasive tenets in how our interactions seem to be conducted. We expect to be fulfilled immediately, with our cerebral world collapsing when free 2-day shipping shows up a day late on Sunday. Remarkably, we somehow feel deserving of outrage when the barista mistakenly ruins our latte by substituting soy for coconut. Anger has become our new happiness. It feels good to be angry because anger reinforces that we are right, and we all want to be right. right? But is this really beneficial to all concerned? Fair to ourselves, to our neighbors? Hopefully we can all walk out the other side of this pandemic woods blessed with a shift in perspective. Personally, having to eat my own cooking for 4 months certainly has me longing to cheerfully walk away with that soy milk latte. Our lens must always be wide enough to reject acute perspective and observation. We must understand that our mechanisms are not broken. They provide the outcomes we've designed them to produce because a fundamental complacency persists with the results. It has become popular for the agents of change to demand in defiant tone a revolution in the process, the how by which we craft the mechanisms of our society. Results are not failed by methods. Negation allows our machines to lumber on without change in result, only reinforcing the manufacture of contentment. I argue that it is a pervasive disregard of our why that erodes the humanity of civic life and liberty. Our why must live in the space of truth, where we can only hope to change the result by embracing unity, patience, and selflessness. So where then do we find our islands of truth and expression? Rotary was founded on and must remain a domain of experimental thought, where all opinions are treated equally and the space for their discussion provided without prejudice or preconception. Truth is not a worldview. Truth is not an opinion. It is only upheld through rigorous defense and respect of collective experience. Rotary has never harbored the manipulation of truth, the encouragement of disdain, or demand for being right. But this is no accident. It is the foundation behind everything we do. Is it the truth? The four-way test established a space for truth to lead members of over 35,000 clubs to improve their communities, promote economic attainment, realize the improvement of education, repress institutional racism, implement clean water and sanitation, endorse the diversity of ideas, and remain at the forefront of world health. Rotary remains uniquely centered on our diversity and has always defended and aspired to a place of we over them and us. Together, with a focus on prioritizing transparency, humility, and empathy, we can all help promote the ubiquity of truth. I have many thanks to give. I wish to thank our board and committee chairs. With continual amazement, I remain fortunate, having been granted audience to their tireless commitment to our city. Their passion for equity, humanity, fairness, and defense of truth is honorable. To past presidents, Rick White, whose invitation to RCM still hangs on my office wall. To Nancy Sennett, whose invitation to the board empowered me to consume Rotary on the deepest of levels. To Joanne Anton, whose grace, radiant smile, and passion for Milwaukee continually inspires me to find the better parts of myself. To Ed Krishok, who saw a future Rotary Club president in me, an honor I will humbly cherish and seek to reverently uphold. To President Steve, our club remains deeply indebted to your poise and stately leadership through this unprecedented time. And to Mary McCormick, your stoicism, knowledge, and dedication are profound and remain the hallmark of our club's success. And thank you to our members. You are Rotary, our club, with your help and the help of those before us and after, will continue to make a difference in our community, in ourselves, and in the communities of more than 200 countries across the globe. Thank you. With that, I have a few announcements and an adjournment. Next week, there will not be a Tuesday Rotary program as we take a week off to celebrate Independence Day. Our next Tuesday program will be on Tuesday, July 14th, where fellow Rotarian, Chief Deputy District Attorney Kent Laverne will have a conversation with Sheriff Ernell Lucas. Our Thursday snack programs will also take a short break, and they will be back on Thursday, July 16th with Rotarian Lilith Fowler to give us an update on the Harbor District. With that, we wish everyone a happy Independence Day. Stay safe, healthy, and see you on July 14th. This meeting is adjourned.